Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me back to Didactic. I'm really hopeful that the first training that I did in working with clients who've experienced traumatic brain injury was useful. And I'm really happy to be back to get to talk more about executive functioning, kind of more broadly across diagnosis. And I wanted to start by naming some references that were really useful for me in both learning more about executive functioning and thinking about how to present it for us so that it can be really relevant across our clients. So I have been working with a neuropsychologist, Dr. Jim Wilson in Marin, who has been very, very helpful in thinking about how to make executive functioning skill development tangible. And I also participated in a class called Cog Smart through through Schurig Center for Brain Injury. So just wanting to name those two places as really useful. And then also this book that I read, Executive Skills in Children and Adolescents. So just to name that, what I'm sharing is both from personal experience and also from some resources that are available if you're wanting to learn more. So we'll start by thinking about what is executive functioning. So humans generally have a built-in capacity to meet challenges and accomplish goals through higher level functions called executive skills. Executive skills allow us to organize our behavior over time and override immediate demands in favor of long-term goals. And some of our clients can struggle in this area, likely due to developmental disabilities or acquired injuries or trauma. So I was wondering if we could start by just opening up in some popcorn. How would you describe knowing if one of your clients was having challenges in executive functioning?
If I'm noticing that they're having a hard time figuring out like what a consequence might be of something that they're doing, because it's like that's a few steps away from where they are, so they have to think through multiple steps. So like maybe they can get to these few but not these ones. So that's like kind of one thing I experience often with a client who has executive functioning difficulties. Yeah.
When they're highly motivated for treatment, but they can't schedule it correctly, it's always bunched with a bunch of other stuff or overlaps.
Oh, I really appreciate, Dan, that strength-based thinking about that the client, it's not that they're not wanting to, right? They're really motivated. It's just that having this barrier with their executive functioning. So we're really wanting to join into that motivation and support them with some tools. So thank you. Does anything else come to mind if you're thinking about some of the clients you've been working at? And I hope that we'll continue to be thinking about and bringing to mind and sharing with each other some of the challenges that we've been navigating and also what kind of systems have been supportive.
A lot of times it's me helping clients counteract the idea that they're just defective or quote unquote not smart or not trying hard enough, and me really helping the children and I think more importantly, the parents understand what's going on and reframing what's happening.
Nice, Tanisha, thank you so much. Yeah, so recognizing that this is both going to be really relevant to when we're thinking about the little kids that we're working with and also their caregivers, right? Both can have some of these, some barriers that with just a little support, I think can go a long way. Is there anything else before I move on? And again, just please continue to, we can take pauses all throughout this didactic as I speak to some challenges and also as I speak to some skills. May we bring this to be really relevant to our work, not just a didactic.
I think of time management too, and like planning or expecting how long something is going to take to complete. And then also having other things to do, but not being able to hold all of that at the same time can be really challenging.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Yeah, so we're seeing that this happen. These barriers are pretty vast. They're very broad. Like there's not just one category, right? And so keeping executive functioning in our minds, I think, can help so that we don't pathologize our clients, and we think about them as skills that are needing support and not deficits. So we please.
I was hopping away like a popcorn. I was also thinking about sometimes when someone is like incredibly effortful, like how Dan kind of framed it as like they're trying, they really want to do this thing, like specifically around like noticing they're having an emotion and kind of preventing themselves from, maybe acting on it or something like that, but just, in the identification of the emotion or in the acting through it, sometimes it can be hard because it's just there and they're having a hard time regulating or down regulating. And that's not only executive functioning, but it definitely is part of it. Yeah, it definitely is, Bree. Thank you. Thank you for naming. Yeah, so that kind of affect regulation, there's both like the affect regulation and then also like the thinking skills that go into executive functioning. And today we're going to be focusing a little bit more on tools to support skill development, less on the affect regulation, but more on like the organizing planning side, just to name the difference, but both are definitely included. So many of these have already been mentioned, but just to go over some of the broader categories, we're going to be talking about planning, the ability to create kind of like a roadmap to reach a goal, and figuring out what's important to focus on and what's not important to focus on. That can be challenging sometimes. Organization, figuring out where certain things belong and not wanting to get overwhelmed with things everywhere. Time management, I believe, as Jessica mentioned, this idea of thinking about how much time someone has to allocate to a certain activity, how to stay within time limits, and just even an overarching idea of a concept of time, that this can be something that we take for granted. Working.
Oh, I was going to throw in one other thing that keeps popping up here is, and I meant to say it sooner, is just any interaction with the criminal justice system, especially if it's chronic. We started doing MOCAs for people who had that, and it was amazing how many people just cognitive difficulties all the way through. Sorry, I know you were going on, but I wanted to catch that one as a sign that someone might have an executive functioning before we went too much further, especially if they've ever been in fistfights.
Thank you, Dan, and please don't apologize. This is meant to be a fluid conversation. I mean, the slides will guide us, but please keep bringing it to light where you're seeing this, whether it be in the criminal justice system or wherever it's relevant. Let us know so that we can be thinking together. So when we're thinking about where in the brain executive functioning is located, researchers now are generally in agreement that it's in these frontal brain systems, the frontal and prefrontal cortex, along with the connections to the adjacent areas. So if you're looking at the map, it's going to be on this left side of the brain. It's okay, baby. Sorry, my puppy was spayed yesterday, so she's a little hurting. And not new, but important to be keeping in mind is that the prefrontal brain systems are among the last to fully develop. So when we're working with younger kiddos or kiddos all the way up into later adolescence, these skills are still developing. And then additionally, executive functioning can be impacted by trauma, ADHD, ADD, intellectual disability, brain injury, autism, and learning disabilities. So both developmental and some acquired. Are there some other diagnoses that I haven't mentioned that we're wanting to keep in mind? Well, as they do come to mind, please feel free to bring them into this space.
Jessica said something about chronic illness could also have this related to it.
Definitely.
illness and chronic pain too, how much cognitive resources managing pain on a moment-to-moment basis takes away from your ability to interact with your environment and to take in information and process it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with something like chronic pain, that is maybe less likely to be, like, people might be less aware of how much that impacts executive functioning. So our role might also be to help to bring, use what we're learning today to bring that to awareness with other providers that might be a little less sensitive to the ways that different clients' experiences impact their executive functioning. The developmental progress of executive functioning often is from external to external. So what that means is that to support the development of executive functioning skills, first, we're going to be presenting the skills externally to our clients, and then very gradually and over an extended period of time, we'll be able to fade out some of that instruction, supervision, cues, to the point where the client can apply the skills independently. And this process can sometimes be frustrating. And so I'm wanting to just remind us that it's really going to require both, patience and persistence on the part of the provider and the client. And I appreciate this quote that says, patience is not just the ability to wait, but the ability to keep a good attitude while we're waiting. So for example, sending happy and enthusiastic reminder text instead of like a frustrated text that the client is needing to be reminded one more time. This attitude of wanting to meet our clients where they're at can really go a long way, because it's just as tiring for the client themselves. And when we're thinking about designing interventions to support executive functioning skills, the environment is a big thing to keep in mind, which was already mentioned, but we'll kind of expand more into how to think about the environment and its impact. So when we're thinking about environmental modifications and tools, you can think of this as like a journey that the clients are going on, and that we're helping to create a roadmap for their thinking. So first we have to bring the map for the client to refer to with prompts and cues, and then eventually it'll be internalized so that they can follow the procedure independently. Environmental interventions to consider. One is we could adapt the physical and social environment to reduce challenges. So when you get to your client's home, or even if you're on Zoom and you're looking at the environment of your client, take a moment to survey the client's environment and determine, is there anything that we could possibly suggest that they could change to make the environment better able to be attended to? So is there something that we might consider suggesting them to remove? Is the TV going on? Or is there something that we might consider adding, like a sound machine, so you can't hear the other things going on in the other rooms? We might, as clinicians, also be mindful of how could we alter the task that we're asking our client to perform. Are there ways that we could, it's not so much about changing the content, so it's not about changing the expectation, but changing the way that and the format that it's offered. So with length, you could think about, should we be breaking this task into smaller, shorter pieces? In the way that we give directions, should we or could we be thinking about making the steps more explicit for our clients, or more closed-ended, not open-ended? Or could we offer multiple choice, or offer some flexibility in the order that tasks are completed? And then another environmental thing that we can contribute is, how could we build in cues to prompt the client to perform the task or behavior? Are there verbal prompts or reminders that we could be offering, audio tape or visual cues, schedules, lists? These are some things that we'll go into thinking about further. So just to take a pause and do a little survey, just so we can really be bringing to mind clients and families as we're going through this didactic. I'm wondering, what are some environmental interventions or modifications that you have made in your client's home? I'll read through these questions and then I'll offer us to start thinking preliminarily about what kind of things have we already been doing? What kind of things have we already found to be really helpful? I find it to be really helpful to think about sensory sensitivity, and having us think across the sensory system, what is possibly impacting the client's executive functioning. Have there been any successful modifications that you could or have made to a task to make it more accessible to their executive functioning? Has it been helpful to break a task down with one of your clients? And then what kind of cues have your clients benefited from? Was it more visual cue or was it a more auditory cue? Does anyone have a client in mind, either past or present, that has had some challenges with executive functioning that we could be thinking about specifically?
Thing that I've done with clients is I have a parent in particular who really struggles in navigating meetings for their child who is involved in multiple systems like the school district, regional center, their own medical needs. And something that we've found to be really supportive is that I attend the meetings, but beforehand, the parent and I meet and we talk about what their expectations of the meeting are and kind of take notes. We both take our own notes about what the talking points are available so that she can be the one to advocate in the meeting and not have to be so reliant on me during the meeting, because that's something that's important to them. And then afterwards, I always write a summary of the meeting and send it via email. And then we also talk about it. So it's kind of like repeating the information, but putting it in a way where that the parent has the control and feels like they are the one advocating for their child rather than feeling like they're fully supported and almost being taken over in that process.
Wow, Jessica, talk about
awesome. That's awesome. And I would add the same thing could be true for doctor visits. You know, preparing ahead and maybe going with for them to get the information that they need and the right language that they want, and so on. But
beautiful examples, IEPs. I mean, all of these, they're like invisible moments that the system might not realize the client needs that extra step to prepare. And then also I really appreciate, Jessica, the follow through that you offer with not only helping them prepare and get through the meeting, but also, okay, now they just went through this likely stressful meeting. And then what's the likelihood that in that state, they're going to remember what are the next steps? So, you know, we can offer some prompts, but also I really appreciate that you offer that summary and that meeting after. So these are all really gracious gestures that go a long way in helping our clients to feel prepared and confident and present, because they have so much knowledge that they want to contribute. So it's about how to create this environment where they can access and remember this information that they want to bring forth.
For me, I have executive functioning difficulties because of ADHD, and the way I I structure my environment for myself is I have like little embedded cues. Like when I do this, I have to do this. So it's like paired. So it's like when I pick up my keys, I'm going to remember to look for my purse. Or when I do X, and then just like practicing never letting myself forget. So reminding, like trying to be really vigilant at the outset of setting that kind of pairing, that like every time I pick up the keys, I'm looking for the purse or something like that. Or every time I watch myself putting my phone down in a stupid place, like in the bathroom where I'm never going to find it. Like rule, no, phone goes in two places, either here or here. Yeah. So maybe that's a little different.
A ritual around that linking and that pairing, and both being patient but also vigilant with ourselves as we really try to integrate these systems in.
And then I have a friend who has like not a billion, but like a lot of alarms throughout the day, just to like remind him to do, like at 3 o'clock, remember do this thing, or like at 5 o'clock, now it's time for the and then you can like label the alarms on your phone. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, alarms are so helpful. So please, I've said this, but I'll say it again, please ask consultation questions at any time. There's so much rich knowledge and experience in this room right now, in this Zoom meeting right now. And so may this be really an opportunity, if anyone is struggling with a client, that this can also be a space for us to think about what tools would be really beneficial. Because we have so much that we've kind of problem solved on our own that I think could be useful across other clients. So just wanting to encourage everyone to lean into their own expertise within their clinical work and offer that experience to each other.
Rose?
Yeah.
One thing to add with that I just realized is if someone brings up a client, I think it'd be important to change some details to really camouflage who the client is, or we'd have to turn off the recording and turn it back on, you know, just because if we start getting clinical stuff. But I think if we I can't think of a better word, camouflage the client by changing details, I think that would be okay.
Such an important reminder. Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, I had a little note after this next question, but it's something that we want to be thinking about, you know, always is sensitivity to our clients' personal information. And there can be ways I think we can to talk about our clients without giving personal information and still bring up the scenario. So please keep that in mind, especially because we're recording today, and always to protect our clients' health information. But I do still encourage us to find ways to adapt the information so that we can make this really useful. But thank you so much, Sherry, for that really important reminder.
Yeah, another adaptation I thought of, we've done a lot with families, is especially new parents and parents with ID, but many new parents, really like helping them think about a diaper bag, because a lot of times a parent will go out into the community, they have to go to a meeting or the bank, and they don't bring an extra change of clothes or a snack or a water or a drink or something for their baby or their child. So helping set up the stage things like a diaper bag or a changing table.
Such a great example. Yeah, having that bag, both if you have a child or if you have an older kid, having them start to bring their own backpack where they go. So useful, because you're always going to need that along the way. So might as well create those habits and rituals with our clients. And here's some visuals that you might think about or see, and then have executive functioning come to mind. If you see a caregiver just multiply trying to take on so many different tasks at the same time as they're in therapy with you, you might think about, is this caregiver needing some skills to kind of slow down and prioritize therapy in this moment so that they can attend to what we're trying to work on. Or if you're working with an adolescent or a school age kiddo that's really struggling, you might have executive functioning be something that you're wanting to see if they're being impacted by. And again, please pause at any moment to bring some consultation questions here. So in addition to environmental interventions, we can also support with tool development. And so I'll go through tension reduction, attention and concentration, organization, planning, routine, and learning and memory. And I have like a kind of didactic about these. And then at the end and throughout, of course, I really hope that we can think about which of these tools would actually be really helpful. Or maybe I've missed a lot of tools that have been useful, like the diaper bag. I definitely don't have that in here. So thank you, Sherry. And all of these examples are like so useful across so many of our clients. So please bring them to the conversation. So with tension reduction, this is something that we think about a lot, right? We're wanting to help our clients get into this grounded and alert state before we expect them to move forward with pursuing a goal. So some strategies for reducing fatigue are to help our clients think about when are they most energetic, what are their limits, and how we could integrate some downtime and break into their schedule and routine so that they're not always in this kind of like high stress, go state. And I love this kind of breakdown of encouraging for ourselves and our clients to think about an hour a day as some downtime, a day a week as some downtime, a week a season as some downtime. And that might be something that, you know, we want to do, but I think it's more than just wanting to do it. It's really like planning for that and scheduling that in, because expecting ourselves or our clients to just keep planning, keep moving forward with our goals, it's not sustainable, and there will be burnout. And so how can we help create rituals that also offer breaks? It's so important. So things that you could
This is like spoon theory. Have you looked at that before?
I think Ananda speaks to it a lot. I'm not sure if she's in here, different spoons, but please, Elizabeth, would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, it just reminds me of, like, you know, this theory that we all have like a set number of spoons that represent the energy that we have throughout the day. And everything that we do uses up a spoon. So, you know, you comb your hair, that uses up a spoon. You make breakfast, that uses up spoons. And at the end of the day, how many spoons have you spent versus how many spoons did you have to spend? And that energy kind of differentiation. It's more complicated than that, but I kind of look at it as a way to kind of like help clients structure what it is that they need to do every day and how many spoons they have to spend and what they're going to spend their spoons on.
Beautiful, Elizabeth. And also it gives credit to all the tasks that they had to do just to get up to being to your therapy session. You know, it speaks to how hard we are all working every day to get to work. And then once we're at work, how hard we're working to stay at work and be present and mindful with our clients. So yeah, I love that spoon metaphor. I feel like it offers a lot of generosity and grace to how hard our clients are trying just on the day-to-day, just to get to the session. And from that place, I feel like we can come with a lot more patience and respect for our clients and the effort that they are giving all throughout the day. So whether it be wondering with our clients if they could take a little break to water the garden with their kids, or have they carved out time to sit on the couch with their partner or friend and process the day. As we affirm this for our clients, it helps them to recognize the value that they can also hold. It's not like they're just wasting time. This is valuable time as a reset. Sleep is something that I've also been thinking a lot about with my clients. If they're having challenges with sleep, then they're going to be tired, and then they're going to have executive functioning challenges and cognitive difficulties. So I definitely think it's worth slowing down with our clients and helping them to think about how we can promote healthy sleep habits. So I just offered a couple of suggestions, like creating a calm atmosphere in our client's bedroom. If their room is really cluttered with books that they need to read, papers that they need to attend to, dirty laundry, it's really hard to settle down and to get into this relaxed rest state, because they're just ruminating about all the things that they're worried that they need to do. Making the bed in the morning, that can just offer a great respite and a place of relief to come home to have a clean and fresh bed, and that's a sacred space and a sacred time for them. Having their bed be reserved for sleep or making love, and not a place that our clients are using the computer, ideally not watching TV or talking on the phone or eating, really seeing that as their sacred sleeping space. Turning off the TV and phone and other technologies. I really try my best to turn it off about an hour before bed. And I know that that's not realistic, because sometimes people need to be available for emergencies and things like that. But just recognizing that our brain stays on the go mode when they have the visual stimulation of the screen. And it's, yeah, it can go a long way, just getting our minds into that state of unwinding. Creating nighttime rituals. If your client is worried about all the things that they're needing to do, suggesting them to make a to-do list, which will go into more depth, but having a to-do list for the next day can allow us to kind of breathe and say, like, okay, I already know what I have to do. I don't need to hold that information in my mind while I'm trying to sleep. And then as much as possible, creating some kind of a routine around sleeping, because our bodies internalize the sleep schedule. And so as much as possible, trying to encourage our clients to go to bed and wake up around the same time can be really useful. Some other forms of tension reduction. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, but abdominal breathing, visualization, mindfulness, grounding techniques. All of these skills are very worth supporting our clients in developing, because they will help them throughout the day and also to help them to prepare for sleep. So moving on from tension reduction, now we're going to think about attention and concentration. And why attention is so important is because if they're not able to attend to the information, then they wouldn't be able to encode it into their mind, then they wouldn't be able to find it and retrieve it and give it back in these moments when they're really wanting to. So it can be helpful when we're thinking about supporting executive functioning to have our clients think about what kind of distractions do they have going on, both internal and external. And everybody's different. I mean, even just in this room, I'm sure we all have different internal kind of distractions and external distractions in our environment. So we're wanting to make this really client specific and think with our clients, what internal and external distractions do they have that they want to have some more support attending to? So some examples of internal distractions that our clients might be navigating when they come to session is they might be hungry and thirsty and tired and in pain. You know, how can we expect them to make a plan for the IEP if they need to go to the restroom, or they haven't taken their medication yet, or they're in pain? Maybe today is just not the right day, right? And so thinking about and holding a lot of compassion for their experience internally can go a long way in setting them up for success. So you might ask your client before you get started on one of these more executive functioning tasks, have you eaten? Would you like to get a glass of water? Do you need to take a moment to go to the bathroom? If you're tired, should we take a moment and rest? If it's more like memories that are intruding, or stress or trauma, you know, using some of those mindfulness and other skills that we've been developing with our clients to bring some of those stressors down so that they can really attend to the project that they're wanting to work on. And then externally, what are some other distractions and interruptions that could intrude into their best efforts to attend to the environment, attend to the information? What environmental kind of disruptions are there? So might you consider suggesting to your client to turn off unnecessary noise, like maybe they always have the TV going on, and maybe that could support them in regulation in some ways, but maybe that could be just like overstimulation in other times. So helping our clients to kind of navigate what environmental factors are going to serve them in which times. Is their computer like full of like all of these different screens that are up, and they can't even see the Zoom, you know? Or is it that, you know, oftentimes we're going into families' homes, which is really beautiful that we have everybody come together, but sometimes that can also be overstimulating. So kind of recognizing when to include and open all the doors, and what are other moments when it might be useful to say, like, would it be helpful to go into a private room at this moment? Or would it be helpful to let your other housemates know that you're in therapy right now, so band practice might not be the best time at this hour? Or, you know, hey, it could be really useful to put your phone on silent or not attend to the email. It's really hard in our modern day where we have the email alerts like coming up. So maybe even suggesting to turn the notifications off and having more like a routine and ritualized time that we check our texts and emails, instead of kind of casually allowing us to be intruded all throughout the day. Sometimes that's necessary. And so recognizing what our clients and our own needs are, but realizing that if it's not necessary, it's very distracting. So a couple other strategies, we might consider encouraging our clients to be mindful of not multitasking if possible, or to break tasks down into subtasks with breaks. This happens to me a lot, like trying to like complete 5 different projects. So, you know, encouraging our clients to stick with one task and go all the way through to completion before moving on to the next. And then I love this, having a reward system for completing a task, because we are all working so hard. All of our clients are going through so many, you know, positive, successful moments all throughout the day. Are they slowing down to appreciate the success? Are they slowing down to affirm the hard work that they've been making? That can really help with attention and concentration when they feel that reward and that affirmation. Okay, so moving on from attention and concentration, now we'll think a little bit about organization. So when we think about organization, we're thinking about systems. How can we implement routines into our activity? How can we create like an organized method, right? And this goes across domains. So is it with appointments, creating a schedule and a calendar and a planner? With mail and billing? Is it creating filing systems? With medications, is it actually purchasing a pill container so that you can be sure to be aware and not have to think like, did I take that medication in the morning? Was it Tuesday or was it Wednesday? That's just so much details, and you know, can be pretty costly if you double your medication. And so it's really worthwhile to slow down and take the time to support our clients in creating these systems so that they're not stressed. With phones or messaging with your family, is it useful to have a whiteboard so that we can remember, okay, this child needs to remember to do this, grandma needs to remember to do this, and mom doesn't have to remember it all. It can be on the whiteboard so that we're kind of like collectively holding the hopes. With grocery and meal planning, is there a way to create systems so that mom or dad doesn't have to go to the grocery store and wonder like, what am I buying? Am I just kind of buying impulsively? Am I buying for a set meal plan? So I'll continue to offer these strategies and tools, and then throughout, please slow us down, or at the end, we can also kind of go into a deeper consultation about some specific cases or systems that people found really useful. So I cannot say enough about filing systems, and I got a chance to meet with Sherry about this presentation, and we were talking about just how much information our clients are managing. Lots of it is a blessing, right? Like having WIC, having food stamps, a total blessing, and can so easily slip away if they miss that 6-month reapplication. And so it can also be daunting to have so much information. And how can we help our clients to create systems so that when you get to their house, you can check in on how is their filing system going. You know, you can just pull out that Medi-Cal folder and have that information right there. So I don't know if you can see these little tabs, but tabs are really helpful. Any ways that you can create these structures that some of us kind of take for granted. Or, you know, with kiddos, I like this little one on the right where they can maybe pick their outfit out in advance so that it's already prepared, already planned. These little gestures can go a long way in the morning if the caregiver has 4 kids that they need to get ready for school. Maybe having Sunday night ritual of just getting their outfits ready for the week, maybe that. And maybe not, right? Maybe that would just be another overwhelming task. So really meeting our clients where they're at. And maybe the system won't work. And so I really want to reinforce taking the time to follow through with the system, asking them how it's going. I have like a little 2-file folder, and then I have all my already organized folders. So I can know like, okay, everything that needs to be filed is going to go into this folder. And then when I meet with the client, I can just say like, okay, let's just go through your to file folder, and then let's actually put it into the folder that it belongs into. And then with time, they'll be able to update their folder on their own.
I have a quick question about, because for me, I do have to use a lot of these kind of systems, and after a while, it starts to feel like work, and like life is just this drudgery of ongoing work tasks, and that there's no spontaneity or like vivacity in the fact that I have to be doing work all the time. Do you have any like thoughts about navigating that?
Well, I mean, I definitely want to open it up to the whole group, but I could say that it would be even more stressful if you didn't have the systems in place, right? And so I think part of it is like honoring and praising ourselves and our clients for the steps that they are taking. And then remembering to take breaks. Like, you're right, Bree, you could always have something to be doing, right? And so making sure to be really firm with ourselves to make sure to schedule in that downtime. And then when we see it on our calendar, to say like, you know what, I did as much as I could today. Maybe I need to roll my to-do list into tomorrow's to-do list and get that down on the paper so I don't have to go to bed worrying like, well, maybe I should be doing this. Just kind of having a lot of times to say like, today I'm going to dedicate 1 hour to my executive functioning systems, and then knowing that like a couple things left over in your to file folder, that's okay, right? But it's such a honest and challenging point, is that to keep up with everything, it's a lot, right? And so
I have the same problem. I have ADHD combined with other stuff. And I would probably at points spend more time organizing than I ever spent actually doing tasks. And what I found really worked was gamifying, creating little stories, because that trips the dopamine too. When I'm like, okay, I get an achievement, I do these things. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's a lot of like planners that'll help you gamify. And the other thing I found is if I put everything on time limits and just use my timers. So I'll work for 20 minutes to 30 minutes because I know that's about where my attention span is if I'm not interacting with other people. And then I will set a second timer for a 10-minute to 15-minute break because I know my 10-minute breaks will go for 2 or 3 days if I let them. But also the act of just crossing stuff off a list and having it feel like that actually worked towards a larger goal is helpful. So when I do my little tasks, I have basically the task and then what it's in service of, and it takes me about 5 minutes in the morning. And then that actually feels like I'm accomplishing more than just filing like the third report for Medi-Cal in 1 day or whatever. I don't know if that's helpful for you, but it's been very helpful for me. And I think a big part of it is keeping that achievement mindset. So you do keep getting the dopamine hit. So the ADHD brain stays engaged. Because they've done a lot of research that is one of the things that really matters a lot. The end. I've shared all of my wisdom on this.
With such generosity and honesty. Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate that reminder that we can set those external alarms, because like Dan said, you know, you could both stay in the workflow forever, and we could also just as easily stay in the break flow forever. So having those external reminders can be really helpful. Any other ideas for Bree? Well, maybe some other ideas will come up along the way. And then if anyone else has some other ideas, please feel free to interrupt and support each other, because I appreciate everyone's shares. It's helping us to name that these are skills that we're also and tools that we're also working to implement for ourselves as well. So again, going back to the medication system, having a pill container, just one of many metaphors for containers that we can help to create for these systems that are really important that our clients follow carefully. And then grocery and meal planning. I love, just like the coloring and kind of making it like fun and pretty. I don't know, these little steps can make it, maybe Bree, make it feel like a little bit more playful along the way. And also helpful when we do go to the grocery store, we have kind of our daily or weekly ideas. Functional spaces is also a useful thing. And it's thinking about where our clients are when they're doing a routine and activity and having a designated place in the home. And of course, this does not need to be like a whole room for working out and a whole room for friend time, but even just helping our clients think about like, okay, this is mom, like the whole house has kid toys, but like we're going to create a little altar that's your sacred kind of downtime space. We're going to create a little corner where you have your little reading nook. We're going to create, going down the list, like, okay, this is the area where I go to do really important work and projects, and then helping them to create a space that's quiet, non-distracting, or having another place in the home that's for personal recreation. Like if you like playing music, having that guitar out near the comfy chair can help to affirm, okay, this is where I go to have some downtime. Or when we have our friends over or family over post-COVID, maybe having like a little place that they can invite their friends to. Or with exercise, lots of times our clients have the aspiration to exercise, but they don't have that visual reminder of the tools that they have to support them. So, using this image as kind of an example of having the weights out, having the yoga mat out can encourage the client to remember that that's part of their routine and ritual that they want to implement for the day. And then, yeah, with medication, just as important as it is to have the container for your pills to go into, it's also important to have a ritualized place that it's always at so that you can remember, like, whether it be near the sink or near the bedstand, somewhere where the client's sure to actually see the pill container and follow through with that tool. And I love this idea of calling it a home for our important personal items. It's an automatic place where things go. And so Bree, you come to mind when you're thinking about the keys. Like I'm imagining you have a little place where you also put your keys, or our kiddos might have like a little place where they can remember to always put their backpack so that they don't have to run around the house like, where is my backpack again? And this can go across other domains like keys. Do you have an important place where you put your wallet? Do you have an important place where you put the dog leash and your phone? Things you use every day, like do you have a shoe rack where your shoes all go here? Or do you have a special place where you always put your computer so you remember to charge it every night so that you're not running into having an uncharged phone? And then helping to our client to think about, where are you going to place this home? For example, are you going to put your backpack near the front door, or are you going to put your home on the desk in the office or in the kitchen? It should be a convenient location where you can get into the habit of seeing it as you enter or exit into the rooms. And then this is similar to Sherry's idea about having the diaper bag, right? So always having that diaper bag right at the exit of your home, so that as you go out the door, you're always remembering to have that bag to take with you. And then also, as you develop having the diaper bag, you can remember to replenish it so that it's full and ready to go. I mean, these are steps that require time, and the more that we can ritualize it, the more it can be a routine, the more it can be on automatic. Okay, so now we're moving into planning. So one tool for planning, it can be really helpful to make to-do lists. Strategies for to-do lists is to differentiate the difference between a to-do list and a calendar. So ideally, we're going to put our appointments on our calendars and our to-do lists less so on our calendars. And maybe your to-do list could be near your calendar, but trying to separate like what's a to-do and what's a activity that we're going to be scheduling in. Making a list of everything that you're hoping to achieve and then prioritizing what you really need to get done. And then I think someone already mentioned this, but marking it off can be a great affirmation for the progress that we've made. And then instead of going to bed and worrying about all the things that are left from today, starting a new list for the next day and saying like, okay, I did a great job crossing this and this and this, maybe giving yourself a reward for getting those great goals done, and then having a new list for the next day that has eliminated those things from the day before. And some of these things are like kind of second nature for us, but for our clients, breaking these tasks down and these tools down and really helping to implement them can be really helpful. Another thing to think about when you're making to-do lists, instead of saying like, I need to remember to, like, instead of having a really scattered to-do list, you can kind of break down like, okay, these are the, if you see on the image on the right, these are the groceries that I need to remember to get these are the gifts that I'm hoping to purchase this week. At the mall, I want to remember to get these. When I'm at Target, I want to get this. So that when they get to Target, they're not like, what did I want to get here again? Or they don't have one to-do list that has things for all the different stores that they're kind of rummaging through. So thinking about categorizing the to-do list, like what do I need to shop for? Who are the calls that I need to make? What are the work tasks? What are the appointments that I need to schedule? And then it can be helpful when you're meeting with your client to find out like, did you make that call? Did it just go to voicemail? Was there a follow-up? And then thinking about Sherry's comment about doctor's appointments, like what did the doctor say to do after? Do we need to make another to-do list for the follow-up of that appointment? And then remembering that this is not just relevant to adults. This can be really helpful. These like really formal structures can be really helpful for our kiddos too. So thinking about a good morning ritual that the child gets to actually mark off. It's a lot to remember what they need to do in the morning in order to be ready to go to school. So having like a little, not like a chore chart, but like a to-do chart for the day. Have I brushed my teeth today? Have I made my bed? Have I had breakfast? Have I changed my PJs? This can also alleviate some stress on the parents because they feel like they've passed on these tasks to their kids and implemented systems that the child can actually follow through, or the caregiver can go and check on their to-do list. Like, did they do it? Or instead of having to ask your kid all 4 of these questions, you can just see like, have they marked it off? And your client will feel really empowered. The kid will feel empowered having felt like they were successfully able to contribute to their own readiness to go to school. You can think about this as like a roadmap, as we talked about earlier, helping our clients to think about what's a priority, what are the steps that they want to take toward that goal, and how can they break the project down into smaller steps. Routines. So routines are really helpful. They can simplify life. They can help to address your priorities. Routines require less attention and energy. They rely less on memory. They reduce errors. And they can really help with mood and self-care because it can be often easy to forget to do some of those self-care rituals, but as you integrate them more into the routine, the more they get prioritized and the more they get followed through with. So this is a pretty common routine that I think people can relate to, is like a workout routine. But what we're wanting to think about is how can we implement routines across other life domains?
Oh, Rose, I want to say one thing. So my partner has ADHD, and so he works a lot on getting these routines. So he definitely, so it's mixed because he uses a phone app, but there's a one that like, there's like things where it's very satisfying to complete, like for routines where you tap it. It's like and Dan might have said like, gamified, but it's like, you get this badge and it's like very satisfying. So that's actually really helped, even just for things like shaving. his face. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then also for routines, like he hooks onto me actually. So you can like hook on to other family members. Like I don't have an issue doing like executing my own routine. So he kind of hooks on me. So like that's another thing. Like I'm brushing my teeth, he's gonna like, I'm gonna do this thing. So he's gonna, yeah. So that's just another strategy.
I love that. I love that. And it has me thinking about Bree too, when she was thinking about like, how do I make it so that I'm not just going, you know, having that affirmation and that little star that comes up on the computer that says like, you did it, you completed your task. Hopefully these things can go a long way. And for adults and also for kids, having visuals of their routine can be really helpful. So I love this one on the right where you see around 7 o'clock, our kiddo's gonna wake up, and then they're around 9 o'clock, they're gonna have breakfast. Around 10 o'clock, they're gonna go to school. Then they're gonna get to do an afternoon activity. They're gonna remember to water their plants. They're gonna do some art. Then they can have game time, computer time. And then they're gonna do more of like a evening game off screen. Especially with screens, I think kids can think like, if I don't have the screen now, I will never have the screen. And so if we can create a routine like this, we can show our kiddo like, or the caregiver can show the kiddo like, well, right now we're actually getting ready for school. This isn't screen time. But as you can see, after we get through this and this and this and this activity, then you are gonna get to have screen time. Time is really a harder concept for kids. So I think the more we can help them to see what their routine is. And then with calendars, which we'll talk about in a minute, I have a kiddo that transitions between 2 homes and sometimes that schedule changes. So having the routine or the days laid out and the kiddo can see like, okay, yellow, I'm here at mom's house today. Yellow, I'm here at mom's house tomorrow, but Wednesday I'm gonna be at Poppy's house. Okay, that's red, you know? Trying to create that routine into a tangible form can help the child feel like they have control over their environment, that it's predictable, and that they can have something to look forward to. So it's not just like, no, you can't be on screen, but it's to say, you know, at this time, after you get through these activities, then you can have that screen time. This is another common thing that we're thinking about with our caregivers right now. A lot of our kids are out of school, whether it be because of COVID or because of summer school. And I was just talking to a mom last night and she was like, my kid is on the screen all the time. And grandma's saying like, I really need mom to have a little bit more of a structure throughout the day. And a lot of times we might rely on school to create that structure. Like, okay, we're getting dressed for school, but in a similar way, when we're at home, we want to also implement that routine because we feel better and our kids will feel better if they've taken a shower, if they've brushed their teeth, if they have movement. Remembering, as you can see on this on the right side, to remembering to really schedule in some fresh air time, remembering to take that time to go outside and play, to ride on the bike. Later in the evening, maybe having some free time to watch a movie, but as you can see, we don't see screen on the routine up until that time. So again, really portioning when it is okay to be on the screen is something I can't speak to enough. Is, you know, limiting that and ritualizing it into times that the child can predict. Other things that we'll think about in our routine, there are some more mundane things like getting ready in the morning that we've talked about, planning for meals, getting to and from school, chores, bills, street sweeping. The idea is that these activities take up less energy if you can, and you can save your energy for more important things if you have them ritualized, that you're not thinking like, is it the first Friday? Oh no, was it? Oh, and then you get that ticket. If you can routine that into like every first Friday and put that into the calendar. Or really important activities like your therapy appointment, that can, even though it's really important to your client, if it's not part of their routine, if it's not on a predictable schedule, like we're we work really hard to accommodate through the looking glass, creating consistency and routine, and it goes a long way. And then similarly,
Wait, real quick, Rose, on important activities, could you talk a little more about how you talk with someone about how to prioritize? Because I know a lot of times it can feel like everything has equal importance and has to be done right away.
Yeah, I love that. And it's definitely something that I struggle with too, right? Even if I have it all prioritized out, I'm like, but it all feels like the biggest priority. Does anyone have ideas that come to mind for how to hold when our client feels like it all feels like a priority?
I used to have a system where I could like divide tasks into like things that are urgent but not, shoot, I forget it. And I used to like teach this to people, but it was like urgent but not immediate, and then like immediate but not urgent, or both, or like neither. And urgent being like, I will feel pain if I don't do this, like bathroom, or like, and the things that were a little fuzzy was like doing taxes or something like that, because theoretically it could be both, or it changes based on the day. But they're like quadrants. So just like setting aside a like strategic planning session for oneself to be like, okay, where do these fit in terms of like, what do I need to do like right now that's like, I'm on fire, pay attention to me right now, versus like what's kind of like important but is going to get kicked down the line because there's no deadline for it. So kind of like, and then like breaking those separate tasks down and putting in them throughout the calendar so that when they come up, they're like in there and you've already thought through like, okay, this is a step, I don't have to think about it. But I think that's, I mean, maybe if already it's hard to tell what's important, then maybe just utilize like leaning on someone for support for like a strategic planning session, a self-strategic planning session. I don't know how that, if it needs to happen daily, maybe that's like harder, but like even a morning strategic planning session for the self, like what do I really need? What needs to happen today or I'm screwed, versus like what can drop to the bottom of the to-do list and maybe get pushed toward tomorrow.
I'm following just to follow up on Breeze. I just like, because I know the quadrants too, and so I just like screenshot, I put it in the chat. There's two that I just like Googled, and because I find it very helpful too. So.
Yeah, I find that quadrant to be really helpful too, because like Dan was saying, those non-urgent, non-important tasks still feel super important and urgent in that moment when I see them on the to-do list. So seeing them in the quadrant and realizing, well, actually, that's not actually that important, and it's not urgent, can be like a system that helps when everything feels urgent within us. Dan, have you seen that? Do you see that in the chat? And I'm sure that there are other strategies that I'm not aware of, and I hope that this is a first step in the conversation that we have with our clients too, and even just realizing that it's hard to prioritize, right? And then annual seasonal routines like birthdays, wedding anniversaries, remembering to do your yard work when it's fall, remembering you're gonna have to rake more times than during the spring. It can be really disruptive and overwhelming if it's not kind of ritualized into a routine. So developing routines can make it easier and more meaningful. So in addition to supporting routines, a tool that can be really helpful is calendars. Calendars can support executive functioning because our clients will be able to rely less on their memory, reducing the number of things that they need to remember. You can also see visually the schedule of what's coming up, and what's been helpful for me is also having that record of what happened in the past to be able to go back and say like, oh yeah, I haven't been to the doctor, and looking back like, wow, I haven't been there in 4 months, you know. The calendar can also help to schedule events that you need to do, completing tasks, and also things that you're wanting to do like exercise. If it's not if it is in your schedule, it's less likely that you're going to put it off. If you've already marked off like from 3 to 4, I'm going to take a walk, it's harder to not do it than if you just say like, yeah, I'm going to take a walk this afternoon. If it's not in your calendar, it could be harder to just keep working through. And people have already mentioned this, but just to reiterate that the smartphone or other electronic calendars can really help to make some of these automatic reminders just happen automatically instead of having to remember every morning and every night, like, did I take my medication? Have I watered my plants? Have I called my family? Have I done my physical therapy stretches? Having it ritualized into your calendar can help for you to have to use less of your thinking and more just creating a routine to flow through. So calendars are helpful for different people in different ways. Like for me, it's really helpful to have a calendar that's broken down by 15-minute increments because I have a hard time kind of having a concept of time. And so really seeing the physical 15-minute increments is really helpful. Another strategy that I found helpful is color coordinating, like literally on the calendar highlighting the things that I'm doing for work in red, things I'm doing for self-care in yellow, things I'm doing for the kids in green. And then also getting to notice, is your calendar only red on Mondays? And where could you put in a break? And then another strategy is to write clearly and white out instead of crossing out. So here you can see what that 15-minute calendar would look like, where you start at 8 o'clock and you go 8, 8:15, 8:30, 8:45. You can really see the passing of time. And again, with the drawing lines, trying to avoid that and instead using whiteout, just trying to keep it like not having your calendar be yet another overwhelming thing. So maybe we could take a moment to think about what type of calendar do you think would be most accessible to which clients? Like, is a client needing it to be more simple and they can see the whole week? Are they needing it to be more visual where they can see the whole month? Or are they needing it to be broken down by minute or 15-minute increments throughout the day? When you're thinking about your families, what kind of calendars do you think would be helpful for them? And it could be that all 3 of them would be helpful for different clients, right? Or different
I like a combination
Nice.
of calendars. Like it takes more time in like planning, but I find that both having a visual of like day by day on a month where I can include pictures and simple words or times, but then also something a little bit more detailed where like when I'm actually doing the task that has to be done, where I can kind of look at like, did I write any notes down on any specific websites that I need to access, or you know, like if what bills I have to pay, instead of just on the visual having like the money sign for bills on the written out calendar, I can write down what specific bills I have for, because I don't remember everything off the top of my head. So being able to have that little list on the side is also helpful. And I found that to be helpful, a combination with some of my clients.
I agree. And I think there could be like multiple calendars for the same client. Like you have the monthly view for the monthly things, like for some places street sweeping is once a month, or like changing the cat litter. Like I have to put that on a monthly view, like but then there's other things that like you need the day-to-day, like this client is at 4:30 on the like, and then it changes week to week. So
yeah, with one of my clients, I've talked a lot about this with his mom, because like they just don't have routine in their life, and the mom is kind of begging for it. But the kid has dyslexia, and so anything words, he just refuses to look at that, and it just makes him more overwhelmed. So Rose, Evelyn, I really liked that the visual you had with like different times a day for like what activities the kid can do at what order in the day. I think something like that would be really helpful for him to just kind of understand, like you were saying, that TV time is going to happen, but it's not happening now. But then I also think this middle picture here you have of the kind of visual, just a little bit of words, month view would be helpful for like therapy sessions and stuff like that, that he knows has to happen because he also has some autism spectrum characteristics. So he really likes to know what's going to happen. And so I think having that full month view would be helpful for that aspect of his. The mom, when she says, no, this is what we're doing now. And so it's like, nope, this is what the calendar says. So this is what we're going to do.
Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, so
Actually, oh, sorry. The psychology thing, I was working with clients just as a coach, and I had a client with a severe TBI who would become very dysregulated, and actually putting stuff on the whiteboard and then just pointing to it would completely refocus and regulate him. He would, I mean, his main goal was just to watch TV and eat sugar. But if you pointed to the like board and you're like, nope, now it's shower time, now it's time to go on a walk, he would just be like, oh, okay, that's the thing we're doing now. And something about that connected with him, and then he would go do it. But if you tried to do it out of order, or you didn't use the board, it was impossible. And I found that I still don't know why it worked, but I found that amazing how much just having it written down so he could see it and know it worked with that particular client.
thank you, Dave. Thank you for speaking to the nuances of each client. And that's what I was trying to get at in this question is like, for me, I like the 15-minute calendar, but that's not necessarily going to work for my clients. And so presenting calendars in a way where the client knows, and you also are aware, like if this calendar doesn't work, that doesn't mean calendars doesn't work, but maybe we need to adapt and accommodate the calendar for it to be more helpful for our specific clients. So thank you. And then with my client that I just saw last night, it's really helpful to follow up at the end of session to say like, am I in your calendar for next week? And you know, helping them in the moment to make sure that it's on the calendar goes a long way. So this is our last little section, learning and memory. Perspective memory is this ability to remember things to do in the future, like not wanting to forget an appointment, not wanting to forget a meeting, not wanting to forget to return something that we've borrowed. Memory is our ability to both store the information and then retrieve it. So you can think of this like a filing cabinet in our mind. We have different files that are organized according to various topics. Like we have a file for childhood memory. We have a file for names that we're trying to remember, a file for how to do things. And through effort and organization, you're more likely to find the file and file it away in your memory well so that it can be easier to retrieve later. And we all need good memory strategies, just like we need a good filing system. So there are both internal and external strategies that support memory. So internally, we can just jump down to the bottom, linking. That was something that Bree was talking about, or she named it as pairing, forming a habit by adding a new task to something that you already do. Like when you wake up, having the backup note on your alarm clock or on the light switch. Or for Bree, it's like when she grabs the keys, she knows she has to grab that other thing. Or if you know that every day your client's gonna eat breakfast and eat cereal, can you put the reminder note on the cereal box or on the kitchen cabinet handle? The more that the client has to touch something, the more likely they'll be to remember it. And then in addition to some of those internal strategies, there's external strategies. And to expect our clients to remember everything, it's not useful, it's not realistic. So how can we create a routine or a tool to help attention and memory so that it can become a routine or habit? So things that we've already talked about include calendars, but we haven't yet mentioned taking notes. Writing things down helps so much. Voice recorders, I use a LiveScribe pen, which I recognize isn't accessible to all of our clients, but also on the phone, there's like voice memos on the phone. You could even have your client like record the doctor's appointment so that when we circle around to ask what was the to-do after the appointment and the client doesn't remember, we can review some of that audio recording information with them. Or some other visual cues, like having things placed at the door already, like having the diaper bag at the door so that they can remember every time they go out the door that they want to bring that with them, or having alarms and timers. Computers or cell phones can also automate some of these memory systems, or even like the navigation system, not feeling like our client has to remember how to get everywhere, but that they can lean into navigation systems. Are there any other ideas of what we could implement to support our clients with some external memory strategies? Or have there been some that have been really useful for your clients? Well, we've talked about a lot of them already, so that's okay that not a new idea is coming up. But just, you know, meeting our clients where they're at and helping them to think about what's really functional for them in their life. What are they really wanting to work toward? What are they wanting to remember? And not everybody's going to have a phone. Not everyone's going to have a computer. So is a sticky note a more realistic reminder? And then retrieval. So even if people have put a lot of energy into storing the information, it can be hard to retrieve that information. So sometimes clients might feel like, oh, the information is just on the tip of the tongue, but I can't quite retrieve it. So strategies that you can offer to your clients to help with retrieving information, make sure that they're in a relaxed state. If they're anxious, that can lead to having difficulty with retrieving information. Mental retracing, like actually retracing your steps. Like let's say you misplaced your keys, you could ask your client, like, where were you? Let's bring ourselves back to where were you? What were the events that led up to the last time you had that item? Or recreating the context D. So having them actually imagine that they're back in the restaurant, or actually going back to the restaurant to remember, like, where was I? Or alphabet searching. This is one that I use sometimes when I'm forgetting names. I'll say, like, I don't remember Jessica's name, but I'll go through, like, is it A, B, J? Okay, oh yeah, it was J. Okay, Jessica. So just little strategies can go a long way. And remember that anyone can benefit from these tools that we've been talking about, especially clients with executive functioning challenges, and that our clients do not need to acquire all of these skills. And we don't need to feel the pressure to have implemented all of these skills right away. These are things that we want to acquire and help our clients to acquire one step at a time. So affirming each step of the way, like remembering that our client, even just getting the calendar and remembering to use the calendar, is a step that we really want to affirm before we move into saying, oh, and let's remember to color coordinate your calendar too, right? So remembering to really affirm and appreciate the steps that the clients are taking along the way. So again, we have about 10 more minutes. So I just wanted to open up some space to think about if any of these tools or strategies might benefit your client, and if so, how. And if it would be useful, if we're kind of stumped on a client, this could be a really great place to think about a client that would benefit from us thinking together about how we could support their executive functioning. Does anybody have some reflection that they're wanting to share, or a client that could be helpful for us to problem solve together about?
I think one thing that I wanted to add is thinking about something in one of your previous slides about like word searching and thinking about, oh, it's on the tip of my tongue and I just can't think about it. Or like something that I experience is I'll just have a complete freeze almost of my brain or my train of thought, and I just can't even think about what I was going to say or what we were just previously talking. And something that I found really helpful for myself, and I try to offer to clients that I work with too is giving space in the moment. So rather than forward thinking and planning about helping them remember, just taking a step back and giving them space to see if they just can settle themselves and say the word. Or like if I'm in a conversation with somebody and I can't think of the right word, and I freeze, just having the space to be quiet for a moment and not have somebody try to think about what I was going to say or assume what I was going to say, but allowing me to come to that myself is also really helpful at times. And then if I ask or I say, you know, I really can't remember what I was going to say, and then hitting that planning phase and support phase.
Thank you, Jessica, for reminding us how important it is to slow down and to allow ourselves and our clients the time to use the strategies that they have and not to feel like we need to rush through. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for taking this time to think about and to how we can support our clients with executive functioning barriers. I really hope that some of these tools and strategies would benefit your clients through the looking glass. And I also recognize that as the year is coming to an end, I want us to recognize that these tools will help our clients moving forward as well. So I hope that this was a useful use of your time, and I would love to stay more in touch about these conversations. I know there's so much knowledge in the room, and I really appreciate the generosity that everyone offered, both in their own personal experiences and strategies that were useful, and also in thinking about our clients and how to be of service and how to be patient and help our clients persevere toward their goals.
Rose Evelyn, this has been really awesome, especially how it's been structured. And I'm wondering, because sometimes like I work with clients or will be in my practice at some point with ADHD, I'm wondering like, is there a way I can like put your name all over it, but kind of use some of this because it's already structured and it's great.
Yes, absolutely. I've already been using it with some of my clients. I'm like, well, I already have the PowerPoint. Might as well go through it with you. Yeah, absolutely, Bree. I'm sorry that I really benefit from people sending the PowerPoint out in advance. So I apologize that I didn't send it out, but I will have Sherry send it out.
Thank you so much. This was so helpful.
Yay, I'm glad. Well, you guys asked for this. You friends asked for this. So thanks for asking for what's useful.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, I hope that you all have a beautiful rest of your Wednesday.